FPL double game week 24 transfer targets. Double game weeks are the best time in the FPL calendar. So in today's video, we'll be going through my favorite transfer targets for the upcoming double game week in the Vert verified power ranking, my top 5 for the next 5, a wildcard draft from game week 24, as well as going through some of the upcoming blanks and going through the assistant manager chip that's just become active as well. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure you smash that like button and hit that subscribe, and let's get into it. What's up? It's FPL Vert, where arrows go green, and as you can see, they didn't actually go green this week. But we'll get into that into my team selection. But just as it's game week 24, the assistant manager chip is now active. So just to go over it again, as I did previously talk about it in a previous video, but it's now active, so it's more relevant right now. So just to go over it again, once it's activated, it lasts for 3 game weeks. So you cannot disable it after it's been activated. It will last for 3 game weeks. So for example, if you activated it in game week 24, it'll be active for game week 24, 25, and 26. And just like all the other chips, you cannot play a wildcard, a triple captain, a bench booster, free hit. You can't play any chips at the same time that the system manager chip is active. And it comes out of your squad budget, and you can move them around, but it would use a free transfer or a -4 hit. And the player per club rule still applies. So for example, if you have triple Liverpool, you cannot then add Arnie slot, for example. And just a reminder on how the points are scored. So you get 6 points for a win, 3 points for a draw, 1 point per goal scored, and 2 points per clean sheet. So it's definitely worth targeting teams that you think will score goals. Well, backing the manager of a team that's going to score goals. But the main twist and the real positive in this chip, in my opinion, is the table bonus. So if you pick a manager of a team that is facing another team at the start of the game week that is at least 5 places or higher, you'll get a table bonus for each win and draw. So for example, you get an extra 10 points for the win or an extra 5 points for the draw. So in real time example, David Moyes of Everton went to Brighton and he won 1-0. So he got 6 points for the win, he got 1 point for the goal, he got 2 points for the clean sheet, and then he got 10 points for the win. So that gave him 19 points from just a 1-0 win. Conversely, Graham Potter of West Ham went to Aston Villa, again with a table bonus. They only drew, so they got 3 points for the draw, 1 point for the goal, but they also got 5 points for the draw as well, and that gave him 8 points. So with the table bonus, a draw is worth more than a normal win. So in my opinion, you want to use it on a team that has a chance of really not really upsetting the odds, because I'm not saying you should use a team that's going to be 6th and placing 1st. I think it's more about utilizing the mid-table. So maybe like a team that's 14th, 13th, playing 9th and 8th. Maybe at the end of the season when Europe is out of reach for some teams. I think that's the real bonus of this chip. And just a reminder of the upcoming blanks, because of course the Carabao Cup final will take place on the weekend of the 16th of March, which is the same weekend as game week 29. So for the teams that make the final, their Premier League game will have to be postponed. So therefore, the teams that will make the final will obviously not be playing in game week 29, and therefore leaving a blank. So at the moment, Tottenham Hotspur are leading Liverpool 1-0, and Newcastle are leading Arsenal 2-0. So of course the second legs are going to be played at Anfield and St James's Park. So Tottenham will travel to Anfield looking to protect their 1-0 lead, and Arsenal will be travelling to St James's Park to overturn a 2-0 deficit. So I've taken the odds from the implied probability to qualify from the bookies on Odds Checker, and currently Aston Villa and Liverpool is predicted to be a blank because Liverpool are odds on to make the final, as is the same with Newcastle. So it's looking like Fulham and Spurs and Arsenal Chelsea will be on, but of course anything can happen. These are just the odds that are taken, but at the moment it's looking like these are the games that are going to be postponed. So when you're making your transfers, maybe keep in mind that you might not have a player in game week 29, or you can just use your free hit and then it'll be fine. But I'm personally looking to not use my free hit in the game week 29 at the moment, but that also depends on the FA Cup, because there will be doubles in 33 after the games that will blank in 29 will be put into 33, and then 36 will be caused by the blanks for the FA Cup semi-final. So, but we'll make a video on this, of course. So, into the goalkeepers in the verified power ranking, and we do have actually Pickford at number 1. Why, you ask? It's more because of what we just discussed just now. In game week 29, Everton can't blank because, well, they're not making it the Carabao Cup final, and their opponents will not be participating in the Carabao Cup final either. And I think for this week and beyond as well, considering the fixtures, as you can see, I think, you know, Pickford has the ability to, you know, make saves. He can make penalty saves, as we've seen already, and he's cheaper as well. And I also think, more importantly, I think the ideal Liverpool triple up doesn't include Alisson. Of course, I owned Alisson, and I might have sold him, which was to talk about in my team selection. But I just think, given the way the assets lie, and of course, I thought I was happy with Alisson, but I think it's now 2 clean sheets in like 8 games, and it's just not worth the investment, in my opinion, especially when the ceiling is so much higher for Gakpo, as we saw, and I missed his haul. So I picked Pickford at number 1, Alisson at number 2. Henderson's been playing pretty well. Of course, he didn't keep a clean sheet most recently, but he's pretty good value as well. Raya finally rewarded his owners with some points, but I think he's a bit too expensive for a goalkeeper personally. And then Arrizabalaga is actually playing quite well as well. But yeah, I mean, it would be Pickford number 1 for me this week. Into the defenders, and I honestly believe that Trent Alexander-Arnold is the second most important asset to own this week. I know there's a lot of talk about him, about whether is he worth the funds, but I mean, in addition to delivering a pinpoint cross to assist Gakpo for his goal, he also very nearly scored. He hit the crossbar, and we're talking about a matter of inches that, you know, if it crept in, it would have been a goal. That would have been a goal and assist. And of course, Ipswich scored in the dying moments of the match. So we're talking from 2 little actions, it could have been a double-digit return, and people would be rushing to get him. But I still think he is number 1 to own this week. Konate would be second because he's pretty cheap, and I don't think Van Dijk offers anything over him, especially considering he's about 2 million more. So Konate would be definitely number 2 for me. Mykolenko would be number 3, just by virtue of he's the only Everton asset outside of Pickford that I would actually really consider. Of course, he's cheap enough that you can just bench him, so that's why he's gone here. And then Gabriel, of course, you know, he kept a clean sheet with bonus, which is always good to see, and he's going to have his reunion with his best friend Erling Haaland this week against Man City at the Emirates, following what was a very fiery 2-2 draw back in September against Man City. And of course, Kerkez, he's number 5 because of the fixture that he has, but he just continues to be pretty exciting, and I think he's the best value and best pick out of the Bournemouth defence, considering the form that they're on at the moment as well. Into the midfielders, and once again, there is only one number 1 for the midfielders, of course, in the Vert verified power ranking, and his name is Mohamed Salah. Of course, there's a lot of talk about whether the triple captain should be used this week. I will be using it personally. It's not activated yet, but given the way I want to use my chips, which I'll talk a bit more in my team selection, I think you just want to get this one out of the way. For the triple captain, I think it's the least most important chip. I mean, you're getting a ×3 instead of a ×2. In terms of the ceiling, it's not that important. And yes, I know Bournemouth away is not the easiest game, Everton's not the easiest game, but this is Liverpool. We're talking about the team that's, you know, number 1 in the league. And Mohamed Salah, especially in 11 away matches, he has tallied up 11 goals and 8 assists, which averages at 11.6 points per match. So he'll be my triple captain, and that's that. Into the second midfielder, and it's Bryan Mbeumo, of course, in many ways the perfect FPL midfielder. And of course he plays 90 minutes, kind of plays out of position. Sometimes he plays up top sometimes, but of course he's just so good for points. He takes penalties, he's a 90-minute man. What more can you want, especially at that price? And I think the entry, of course, Tottenham is a grey fixture according to the FDR, which is most recently updated as well. But I mean, we're talking about a team that is in dire form. I mean, you can't lose at home to Leicester and not expect to be targeted. So Bryan Mbeumo second, and he might have already been my team as well. Justin Clive as well is living up to his dad's name with respect to him. And you know, when you watch him, even though he's putting up good expected goal involvement numbers, he's such a clean ball striker that, you know, of course he got his hat-trick with the assist at St James Park against Newcastle the week before, and then this week in the, you know, what was billed as a, you know, bit of a big clash, because of course both Forest and Bournemouth have been on form, but he just lets it rip from distance again and it goes straight in. So I won't be moving to him straight away, but I'll certainly be moving to him next week for sure. Foden's here because he scored for the first time in 4 games, according to Match of the Day. But I don't think the fixtures are good. And, I mean, if you've owned him through, obviously I sold him before he got his 15 points and 19 points. I sold him for Gordon, which was definitely a mistake. But yeah, I would probably be selling him now. And we have to talk about Dango-Tara. I mean, when you have a midfielder that's playing out of position up top, the leap that he got for his header as well was pretty incredible. So definitely worth mentioning him as well. I would pick Justin Kluivert over him though, because of course Justin Kluivert's been doing it a lot longer. He's on penalties, and I just prefer him as a pick personally. But he's definitely number 5 on the power ranking. Into the forwards, and just like Salah, Isak's basically made number 1 his top spot. So of course he got 13 points away to Southampton, and so he beat Salah for the best captaincy, so fair play to him. He's now on 150 points as well, and if you don't own him, I mean, you probably already do. But there's a bit of talk about selling him. For most of us, I mean, I don't know what price you would have bought him, but I bought him at 8.6. He's now 9.5, which means he's risen by 0.9. And if I sold him, I'd get 0.4 profit, but I'd still have to pay 0.5 extra to get him back. So personally, I don't think he's worth selling, especially the form that he's in. Into second, and with Gakpo, and as I mentioned, I believe the best Liverpool triple up for this double game week is Trent, Salah and Gakpo. I should have known prior to game week 23 that when you have Ipswich at home, the ceiling is always going to be higher with the attacker rather than the goalkeeper. So that's a lesson learnt. Of course, the double isn't the best, but they do play Wolves at home straight after as well. So I do think he's worth getting, at least, even if it's for 2 game weeks. Yeah, and I think for me, who had Jackson, it was a very easy sell. Into Iliman and Die, yeah, I mean, he's here because they have a double game week, but when you look at the underlying numbers, the expected goal involvement per 90, it is awful, isn't it? I mean, it's almost 3 times as bad as Gakpo's, and Worcester's got almost 3 times as much as well. And it's sort of the same with Mateta, that their numbers aren't the best, but they're playing well. So I think my ideal triple up, my ideal forward line would be Isak, Gakpo and Worcester. Mateta's here because he has been scoring, but you always have to back the eye test really. So if I was making a fresh game week 24 wildcard, this is how I would line up. I would have an Everton double up just because Milenko's just so cheap. You can bench him for Munoz and Kirkes, who rotate very well. We'd have the Liverpool triple up, which is my favourite, which is of course Trent, Salah and Gakpo. Of course this is a wildcard, so I can't actually activate the triple captain, but I would be triple captaining him if it wasn't a wildcard. And Mbeumo and Wissa for their upcoming run, starting with Tottenham at home, which looks like it's primed for goals. Justin Kluivert will play just because you want to have him for the long term. And Palmer, a lot of people are selling Palmer. He's dropped in price. I mean, fair play. I don't really think he's worth a sell. I mean, he's actually been scoring more goals than assisting. So in terms of a ceiling perspective, I think he's actually better. Of course, Chelsea haven't been on form, but he's still been returning. So yeah, I don't think I'd be selling him. And you don't sell him when he's playing West Ham at home either. Of course, we'd have Dango-Tara on the bench as well to rotate in and out, or maybe have like a first sub. And yeah, this is how I would line up. So if you have any questions about the double game week, or your chip strategy, or anything about FPL, make sure just drop it into the comments, or you can DM me on Instagram or Twitter, and I'll reply to it as soon as I can. And we'll be back for a team selection video later in the week. So great being back. Speak to you soon.